Alderman Thibodeau.
Here.
Alderman Govea is here. Alderman Moran. Alderwoman Timmons.
Here.
Alderman Clemmons. Alderman Clee.
Here.
Mayor Donchis.
Here. All right, the first item is public comment. Is there any member of the public who would like to speak on any of tonight's agenda items? I don't see anyone, but I do see Alderman Clemmons, who has arrived at 7:01 p.m.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move to communications. The first from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Govea.
In regard to civic services for residential access mitigation module in the amount not to exceed $31,712 funded from capital projects, 53 professional and technical services. Move to accept, place on file, and approve a one-time implementation operation of Tyler Technologies Civic Services access module with Tyler Technologies in the amount not to exceed $31,712. Funding will be through Department 120 Technology Maintenance, Fund Capital Projects, 53 Professional and Technical Services.
Good evening. Dawn Enright, Treasurer, Tax Collector. I'm here to talk about the upgrade to the Munis resident access system that we currently have. This upgrade is going to give customers the capability of looking up their tax and water, wastewater bills online and see all activity online in real time. All payments will be recorded real time and be visible to the citizens. So this upgrade is going to be a major improvement for the paying customers. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Alderman Clemmons.
Thank you. Is this going to be in the money that we're spending here? Is this going to be like a yearly cost, or is there a yearly cost to that?
The yearly cost is a cost that we're already spending for the service that we get through Munis. This is just upgrading the software that we utilize.
Oh, okay, great.
All right, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Govea.
Annual renewal for Citrix University for hybrid multi-cloud in the amount not to exceed $40,650, funded from General Fund 54 Property Services. I move to accept, place on file, and approve a one-time annual renewal operations of Shy Citrix Universal for hybrid multi-cloud with Shy International Corporation in the amount not to exceed $40,650. Funding will be through Department 120 Technology Maintenance, Fund General Fund 54 Property Services.
Mr. Misevich, please go ahead.
Nick Misevich, Chief Information Officer. This is for the software that employees use to log in remotely and connect to their PCs when they're working from home or on the road, etc. We've been using this product for probably 7 years now. So it's just that it finally crept over the threshold amount to have to come to this meeting in this committee.
All right, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Next, communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Govea.
In regard to purchase of a hazmat meter in the amount not to exceed $62,600, funded from General Fund 71 Equipment. I make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve the purchase of one X-Polar handheld FTIR spectrometer unit from 908 Devices in the amount not to exceed $62,600. Funding will be through Department 152 Fire Rescue Fund, General Fund 71 Equipment.
Chief?
Good evening, Steve Buxton, National Fire Chief. So this unit is for the hazardous materials team. It'll assist them in identifying and quantifying up to 6 different gas components in real time from a database of about 5,000 gases and vapors, and send the information back to the incident commander. It's going to replace some aging technology that we have that's currently out of service, and it's not fiscally responsible to have it repaired at this time. And the price tag on it is $62,600. I do have Hazmat Team Captain Matt Peralt here if anybody has more detailed questions.
Alderman Govea.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, how often is something like this used?
Matt Peralta, it depends on the callouts, but we've been training quite a bit with the meters recently, and what we have is not quite sufficient.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager. Alderman Govea.
In regard to purchase of personal protective clothing in the amount not to exceed $70,000, funded from General Fund 61 Supplies and Materials, make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve the purchase of 18 sets of personal protective equipment, PPE, from Bergeron Protective Clothing in the amount not to exceed $70,000. Funding will be through Department 152 Fire Rescue Fund, General Fund 61 Supplies and Materials.
Chief.
Good evening, Steve Buxton, Fire Chief. So this purchase is the second half of our annual purchase for part of our replacement program for our firefighters. It's for the jacket, pants, and boots.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager. Alderman Govea.
In regard to change order number 10 for the 2023 sewer contract in the amount not to exceed $685,000, funded from Bond 81 Capital Outlay and Improvement, I'll make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve the change order number 10 to the 2023 sewer rehabilitation program, contract 3, with RWC Enterprises to add drainage improvements to 144 Canal Street, 2 Senchier Road, and 25 Pelham Street and Catalina Lane in the amount of $685,000. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater Fund, Bond 81 Capital Outlay and Improvement.
Mr. Saunders.
Good evening, Mark Saunders, Deputy City Engineer. So this change order before you is with RWC Enterprise. To go back, RWC was the low bidder in the 2023 sewer contract 3. Since then, they've completed all their work. There has been several change orders thus far. They've been great to work for with the city. They've agreed to hold their prices within our purchasing agreements, and this is to tackle some of those drainage complaints that come in as the Alderman just mentioned. And I'm happy to answer any questions on this.
Alderman Thibodeau.
So I was just looking at the cost of this particular change order compared to the other 9, right? So is the scope of this that much bigger for this change order? Are the costs higher? I'm just curious.
Yep. So like I said, this was back in 23 when the first contract happened. I know it says change order 10. A good handful of those change orders have been no cost. If something comes up, we're able to kind of shift some money around to cover, because once you think you have a plan until you go on the ground, and then something goes wrong, and you got to finish the job. So this contract went over $1 million, I believe, the prior year, but this is kind of in line with the amount of work he's been seeing on a year to year with that original, and I think there's been 4 cost change orders that all totaled up to this current total right now.
Thank you.
All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next communication from, Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager. Alderman Govea.
In regard to NH Route 111 Bridge Deck Rehab Construction, change order number 2 in the amount not to exceed $159,799.61, funded from Grant and Capital 54 Property Services. I make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve change order number 2 to the New Hampshire Route 111 eastbound and westbound over the Merrimack River Bridge Deck Rehabilitation with Beck and Bellucci in the amount not to exceed $159,799.61. Funding will be through Department 160 Admin Engineering, Fund Grant, and Capital 54 Property Services.
Good evening, Mark Saunders, Deputy City Engineer. This is the second change order with Beck and Bellucci for the Route 111 bridges. That's the twin bridges from Nashua to Hudson. This is a balance and change order. The first bridge that was completed westbound, once the asphalt was peeled back, the deck was in worse shape than was originally estimated. So this money is going to put back into, to cover those costs, as well as the anticipated costs for the second bridge. I would like to point out that this is an LPA project. There is federal funds. It's an 80-20 split, and of that 20%, since the bridges are co-owned by Nashua and Hudson, we're going to pay 10% of that. So I just wanted to bring that to attention. I'm happy to answer any questions on this one as well.
Alderman Clemmons.
So this figure of 159 and change represents our 10%, is that correct?
No, would be 10% of that, so just be just under 16,000.
Okay.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next item, communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Govea.
In regard to 2025 CIPP lining of sewer inspections, CO number 1, in the amount not to exceed $613,289, funded from Bond 81 Capital Outlay and Improvements, I move to accept, place on file, and approve change order number 1 to the 25 CIPP lining of sewer inspection project with Instruction Forum Technologies LLC in the amount not to exceed $613,289. Funding will be through Department 169 Wastewater Fund, Bond 81 Capital Outlay and Improvements.
Good evening, Mark Saunders, Deputy City Engineer. So this is what we're seeking today is the first change order with Institute Form. They were the low bid contractor earlier in this year for our Interceptor liner. We originally had a pretty robust lining contract. With the engineer's estimate, it appeared to be a little more than what we were willing to take on. Fortunately, the bids came back very competitive, very favorably, so we're looking to add some of that work back into this contract. They've agreed to hold their prices, they've begun work, and we're looking to move forward with this change order with them, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Govea.
In regard to Amherst Street fiber optic expansion and signal integration in the amount not to exceed $38,732, funded from General Fund Escrow and Trust 81 Capital Outlay and Improvement, I make a motion to accept, place on file, and award a construction contract for the Amherst Street fiber optic expansion and signal integration with Phoenix Communications in the amount not to exceed $38,732. Funding will be through Department 161 Streets, Fund General Fund Escrow, and Trust 81 Capital Outlay and Improvements.
Good evening, Mark Saunders, Deputy City Engineer. So I'm going to speak to the next two communications because they kind of go hand in glove, so I just want to kind of point that out. But we advertised a contract to extend our fiber optic communication line from Blackstone all the way to the city limit. Along with that, we're also looking to integrate 7 traffic signals along Amherst Street with that fiber optic cable. That went out to bid. We got bids back in April. Phoenix Communication was significantly lower than the other bidders by and lower than the engineer's estimate. So with that, we called them in for a meeting to kind of go over the scope and make sure that it was clearly understood what the scope of this project was and what was expected of them. So with that being said, they missed a couple items, so we were able to negotiate some allowances to cover some traffic control and some material purchase, and that's going to be the second communication, which is the change order. But those two items combined, they're still about $30,000 less than the next bidder. So we believe it's in the best interest of the city to move forward with Phoenix Communication, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Alderman Thibodeau.
I'm trying to find a delicate way to put it because outside of the chamber, there's a term for whether or not somebody's giving you a price that they don't really want to do the job, but if you're willing to pay it, I'll take the job. Do we feel like that was kind of how this was? Why is their bid so low?
So on the original bid, they missed two things, which were big items. One was traffic control, and the other one was site work. So in the change order that's going to come up next is those are going to be allowances. So those are going to be direct pass through. But we're going to be on Amherst Street. We're going to require a police detail. They're probably $800, $1,000 a day. They're going to be out there for 5 to 7 days. So right there is 10, 15,000. On top of that, there's flagging that also couples with that. So that's a big chunk. And then the site work. So we have to get off the pole and into the traffic cabinet. So there's going to be some work there. So they were able to give us a day rate, which lines up. And that was kind of the misses they had. But by able to issue the change order and have the allowances and the day rates was still lower than the next bidder. And we talked to them, we sat down, we had IT, so we're all on the same page. And we feel like they can do the job, and it wasn't a throwaway number, if you would.
Right. All right, thank you.
Alderman Clemmons.
So, last night at the Budget Review Committee, there was a bond that was related to the traffic signals. So this is work outside of what that funding contemplates, or is this, I would imagine this complements that, is that?
That is absolutely correct. This will complement that. That bond is a CMAQ program that we got the grant for. That's looking to optimize and add some video detection. This work will then allow that video detection to tie into our tactic system, so it can be all one cohesive network. And in addition to this, I have spoken with the superintendent of fire alarm. They can also piggyback and up their communication along that corridor as well with this project.
Great, thank you.
Alderwoman Clee.
No, I'm good.
Oh, okay.
He asked my question.
Okay. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager. Alderman Govea.
In regard to Amherst Street Fiber Optic Expansion and Signal Integration Change Order Number 1 in the amount not to exceed $41,625, funded from General Fund Escrow and Trust 81 Capital Outlay and Improvement, I make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve Change Order Number 1 for traffic control and site work with Phoenix Communications in the amount not to exceed $41,625. Funding will be through Department 161 Streets, Fund General Fund Escrow, and Trust 81 Capital Outlay and Improvements.
Good evening, Mark Saunders, Deputy City Engineer. This was the second piece of what I just spoke to. If I need to reiterate, happily will, but open to any questions if anyone has any.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager. Alderman Govea.
In regard to epoxy floor coating on 3 city pool locker rooms in the amount not to exceed $71,834.37, funded from Capital 81 Capital Outlay and Improvements. I make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve a contract with Sprague Flooring to epoxy all 3 of Nashua pool locker room floors in the amount not to exceed $71,834.37. Funding will be through Department 177 Parks and Recreation Fund, Capital 81 Outlay and Improvements.
I think Mr. Conant is here via Zoom. Go ahead.
Superintendent of the Parks Department, Brian Conant. We have 3 city pool, each one has a locker room. This is to redo the concrete floors that are in them currently. They're only painted. This is going to be a no-flake epoxy floor, solid color. That was recommended by the 2 companies that did bid on the job. This went out to bid. We're happy with the low bidder that we've chosen, so I'd be happy to answer any questions. And this will happen at the end of the pool season.
Okay, what's the question?
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next, communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager. Alderman Govea.
In regard to Greeley Park band shell repairs in the amount not to exceed $243,828, funded from Capital 54 Property Services, I make a motion to accept, place on file, and award a construction contract to Cobb Hill Construction Incorporated to renovate the Greeley Park band shell in the amount not to exceed $243,828. Funding will be through Department 177 Parks, Fund, Capital 54 Property Services.
Mr. Conant?
Good evening again. Brian Conant, Superintendent of the Parks Department. This is to renovate the heavily used band shell at Greeley Park. This is going to sand it, paint it, replace the side panels, the roofing, and this project also went out to bid, and this was a little bidder. This is also a company that's working on the stone house. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Alderman Thibodeau.
I saw the time frame that it's supposed to start next November, and I was curious because since we approved this in I don't remember the exact date, but back in January, did we go out for bid then, and we just recently got a favorable bid for it, or curious why we're waiting almost a full year before construction starts or the repairs start?
No, I don't believe, this went out to bid earlier this past May. It was signed into place early May, excuse me, and this went out in April. So it's not that old, Alderman. What we are thinking about doing is maybe doing a change order to do a date earlier in October when it's a little bit more favorable. And I think we can do that because the same company, like I said, that's renovating the Stone House was awarded, or might be awarded this bid.
Alderman Clemmons.
So back several years ago now, there was a controversy regarding that ban shell, and it had to do with the fact that there was a lot of noise and things that come from it, in particular in through kind of the back, because it's not truly covered in the back. Does any of this take care of that problem?
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't, Alderman Clemmons. It just
Okay.
replaces what's currently there. There's no additional side panels, just replacing what's currently there.
And if I could continue, what about the sound system that's there? Is that being replaced, or this is only for the panels?
The speakers and the sound system was actually replaced about 2 years ago.
Oh,
So
okay.
the speakers are in pretty good shape, the lights are in pretty good shape. So that aspect is okay right now.
Okay.
Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, to add to what Superintendent Conant had to say, it'll always be an issue for anybody who lives there because of any sound that comes from there. They regulate the level that can be done, and they lock it down so that when people go in there, they can't just turn it up. And I appreciate all the hard work that he and his staff do to make sure that that doesn't blast through the neighborhood. And the system is much better than it was. There's not all that garbled, and you don't get all the sound issues. So it has gotten much better, and I think they focus the speakers and so on. The work that needs to be done, if you go there and you see some of the plywood, and please correct me again if I'm wrong, Superintendent, the plywood and some of those pieces, I believe, are kind of rotting and need to be replaced, and before we lose any of the what's standing there and so on. So we need to do this work, and I don't think anybody here doesn't want it to happen. It's just that I think we've had this conversation before. None of this takes care of any of the sound deadening. I think that would cost a lot more money than we have here, much kind of like we talk about home, and there just isn't any money in the budget for it. But as the ward alderman there, I would love to have as much sound deadening as possible, but we also have a big area that the music still has to come out to, in the sound. And you want that to happen without hitting the neighborhood, but it is a neighborhood, smack dab in the middle of a neighborhood, so. Why I don't want concerts in Holman. I know I'm in the minority and all that.
I do.
I know. But you don't live right there when they're practicing and rehearsing. So, thank you.
All right. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Gobea.
In regard to purchase of a 2025 Toro 7500Z Master in the amount not to exceed $34,117.37 funded from General Fund 71 Equipment. Make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve the purchase of a 2025 Toro 7500Z Master mower from Turf Products Corp. in the amount not to exceed $34,117.37. Funding will be through Department 177 Parks Fund, General Fund 71 Equipment.
Good evening again, Superintendent of the Parks Department, Brian Conant. This is a scheduled replacement. To speak a little bit more on it, this is a mower that's going to be primarily used at Greeley Park. Our operation has changed a little bit, so it's become more effective and efficient for the operation to be able to have the Greeley Park attendant really be able to have the ability to mow the entire park. And this piece of equipment is going to enable that staff member to do that. I would be happy to answer any questions if there are any.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager. Alderman Govea.
In regard to purchase of a Labrie automized waste collection vehicle in the amount not to exceed $496,875.80, funded from SURF 81 Capital Outlay and Improvements. Make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve the purchase of one Labrie automized waste collection vehicle from Sanitary Equipment in the amount not to exceed $496,875.80. Funding will be through Department 168 Solid Waste Fund SURF Capital Outlay Improvements.
Mr. Rush?
Michael Rush, Fleet Superintendent. So this is a scheduled purchase to replace one of our side load units that's used in daily operations, primarily to pick up recyclables. It does have the capabilities to also pick up trash in the event of emergency. We also use it to collect trash in the park departments as well, just because of the way that it's set up. It's easier to send that into the park department to pick up the collection trash cans up there. Like I said, this is a scheduled piece of equipment. It will be about 14 to 18 months before we see it. So it's going to take some time to get here, so almost 2 years. By that time, we'll reevaluate the unit that it's replacing for trade-in or sell at auction. Happy to answer any questions you have on this.
Alderman Clemmons.
Was this one of the ones we approved the other 2 weeks ago, or is this separate?
This is a scheduled purchase for FY '25. It does not reflect the 4 trucks that we spoke about a few meetings back for the early purchase of FY '26.
Okay.
This is the same manufacturer, the 2 trucks that we have here tonight, and they are willing to hold the price on all 6 units that we are going for.
Great, so if I could, so even though we're 2 years away from getting this, they're gonna hold that price, that's
This company is known for holding their quotes.
excellent.
As long as there's no real crazy
Yeah.
market change, they're willing to hold the price.
Great.
And I've gotten that from multiple members of that team who do the quoting.
Great.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager. Alderman Govea.
In regard to purchase of a Labrie Expert Side Load Automated Packer in the amount not to exceed $495,249.96, funded from SURF 81 Capital Outlay and Improvements. I'll make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve the purchase of a Labrie Expert semi-automated Packer waste collection vehicle from Sanitary Equipment in the amount not to exceed $495,249.96. Funding will be through Department 168 Solid Waste Fund SURF 81 Capital Outlay and Improvements.
Michael Rush, Fleet Superintendent. So similar to the vehicle we just purchased, this is an automated collection vehicle used in daily operations throughout the city. It is coming up on its life expectancy, and the build time is the same, about 14 to 18 months before we see delivery. And then, again, same situation. At that time, we'll reevaluate the unit that it's replacing, and we'll trade it in at that time, or we'll send it to auction. Happy to answer any questions you have on this.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager. Alderman Govea.
In regard to wireless mobile lift system package in the amount not to exceed $102,875.28, funded from General Fund Solid Waste and Wastewater 71 Equipment. Make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve the purchase of one wireless mobile lift system package from ARI Phoenix Incorporated in the amount not to exceed $102,875.28. Funding will be through Department 161, Streets, 168, Solid Waste, and 169, Wastewater. Funds general fund, solid waste, and wastewater 71 equipment.
Michael Rush, Fleet Superintendent. So this purchase is to replace a set of wired lift columns that are currently electric over hydraulic. They're nearing the end of life expectancy. Parts are starting to get hard to find for these. We already have a set of lifts similar to this. They are wireless. There is no hydraulic fluid, so it eliminates the environmental hazard or the possibility of having a ruptured line. It's based on some of the safest technology out there on the market, it's a screw technology. So if something does fail, it's not just going to drop down on top of our technicians. And it also has safety similar to what's in an elevator system. In my opinion, based on research, it's the safest lift system that we could possibly purchase on the market. And it's wireless, so there's no trip hazards. So that's another feature. And they're fully battery operated and rechargeable. We've had good luck with the ones that we currently use. You can use them on pickup trucks. You can use them on mid-sized dump trucks, trash trucks. They can lift the whole fully loaded trash truck up. Even a plow truck fully loaded with sand and salt. It comes with all the adapters and accessories that we would need to do undercarriage work, such as transmissions or axle replacement. So it's a very universal system, and it'll be able to be transferred over into the new building when that comes down the line at some point. Happy to answer any questions you have on this purchase.
That was my one question.
Try to put it all out there.
All right, all those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Next communication from Amy Gerard, Purchasing Manager, Alderman Govea.
In regard to Scorpion 2 Metro TMA SWTK 0100 truck-mounted crash barrier system in the amount not to exceed $33,400, funded from General Fund 71 equipment. Make a motion to accept, place on file, and approve the purchase of one Scorpion 2 Metro TMA SWTK 0100 truck-mounted crash barrier package from Viking Civics in the amount not to exceed $33,400. Funding will be through Department 161 Streets Fund, General Fund 71 equipment.
Mr. Ibarra?
John Ibarra, Superintendent of Streets. Good evening. So this purchase is intended to enhance our security or safety in our street work zones. This will help protect our street department employees that are operating in the work zone. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Alderman Clemmons.
Just out of curiosity, can you tell me how it works?
So it is mounted on the back of a 10-wheeler. In your travels, you may or may not have observed the state uses them on the highway. They're aluminum framed with a crash cushion in the middle. So should somebody impact the back of the vehicle in our work zone, it'll protect our employees.
Great.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll move to new business resolutions, R25-168. Alderman Govea.
R25-168, authorizing the City of Nashua to enter into a master development agreement with Lansing Melbourne Group LLC. And I will make a motion to recommend final passage.
And we have Ms. Liz Hannum here to address this.
Yes, Liz Hannum.
But before we do, let me mention something that I don't think the committee is aware of, or they might not be. Next door to this, across the, what's Spine Road it's called? Bagshaw sold to LMG. LMG is the selected developer here for redevelopment as housing. Bagshaw has been looking to move out of what's really an antiquated mill facility for a long, long time, and finally this deal was made. So no plans have been submitted or anything like that, but the purchase, I think, took place in sometime in May, right? Late April, early May, something like that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the adjacent parcel basically will also become housing at some point, but nothing definite regarding how that is going to be proposed yet. So with that as a context, Ms. Hannum.
Yes, Liz Hannum, Economic Development Director. I have a little short PowerPoint if you want to bring it up. I just wanted to give you just the bullet points of the deal. So if you want to just go to the next one. I just wanted to give some context for those who haven't been around for the last couple of years. We've been working on redeveloping this site since about 2021. And so we did a planning study, we put it out to RFP for developers, we asked for housing development projects. We had 3 bidders, and we ended up with LMG as the winner of the bid. We recently approved just, I think, November or so last year, we approved the purchase and sale agreement with the purchase price. And that gets us to the master development agreement. If you want to just go forward one. So I just kind of created, here's the deal, is they are going to do 240-ish multifamily units. 80% of those are going to be market rate, 20% will be affordable. We've placed, all of them have to be at least 80%, and one has to be at least 60% AMI or below. So we've made sure that we have mixed income units in that space. There's also going to be a commercial space. They've not figured out what the size is yet, but as we move along, we'll make sure that is widely known. And then there's 300 on-site parking spaces that they are going to share 30 of them with the public as well. So it'll be daytime and weekends will be available for people that are visiting either Mine Falls or Clock Tower area. So we hope to kind of see a lot of use in that as well as we continue to develop the mill yard. So that's the site. And then in this development agreement, they are going to do demolition much earlier than anticipated. As you know, we had a fire recently, and we've been asked to demo it as soon as humanly possible. So LMG has offered to do that, but it's going to be a major cost to them because they have to mobilize multiple times. And so we negotiated that the city would lower the purchase price by $500,000 for that, so that they would do that sooner than they anticipated. So that should hopefully mitigate that cost. We've also kind of worked into the deal that we're going to have a deferred payment on the rest of that demo over 36 months. But that would include a mortgage, so it would be something that we could substantiate if the deal falls apart somehow. If you want to go, so the new purchase price would be $4,834,000. So that with that $500,000 credit. If you want to go to the next slide.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Can you please go over it? I'm confused at the city deferred payment of $1 million.
Yeah, so we're essentially, they're going to pay us $1 million, but they're going to do it over 36 months rather than right up front, which the rest of it, so if you take $1 million out, 3.8 million is going to be paid up front, and then the other $1 million will be paid over the course of 36 months. This is just how their financing worked best.
If I can.
So
it said, so that says it includes the mortgage and promissory notes. What exactly does that mean?
So that means that the $1 million is going to be a mortgage rather than just a kind of handshake agreement.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that we have a way, if the deal suddenly falls apart, that we have a way of collecting that money.
Okay.
Yeah. So you want to go to the next slide? This is the last one, I think. So I separated, that's the building, and then they're also working with us and sharing some cost essentially for some public improvements in the area. We're going to do 26,000 square feet of green space, public recreation, a dog park that they are going to design and construct at their cost, surface parking spaces at Mine Falls Gateway down in that lower parking area. And then they're going to do some maintenance. They're going to let us use some of their private space for public events. And then maintenance is going to be one of the bigger things. And then as we build out the Riverwalk to extend into Mine Falls, they've offered an easement of that space as well, so that it stays public. The cost sharing that we're going to do, we're likely going to see it be a lot more expensive than what we have here, but 1.2 million is going to be the city's maximum cost to that. We haven't designed any of it, so we don't know if it will be 800,000 or $1 million. Based on our dog park study, that came out to be anticipate about $1 million just for the dog park. So we feel like this is a good deal for the city, that we're getting it for much less. Economies of scale means LMG can do the construction as well. So we will likely come to you with an amendment that will lower the purchase price depending on what the design of the dog park is and what the construction costs are. But that maximum amount would be 1.2 million. So that would, if it's the maximum amount, that would lower the purchase price to 3.6 million. Any questions?
Alderwoman Timmons.
Thank you, Liz. That looked wonderful, but in my mind, I'm trying to picture where it's located. The Bagshaw was on the Pine Street extension to the left,
Yes.
right? So it's up behind there. Okay.
So if you look at the smokestack, the NIMCO building is right behind there. It's the
Okay.
one that's
It's
all
the
fenced
gray one
off.
that's in really terrible shape,
Yes,
All
yeah,
right.
where there was a fire.
recently. Yeah, so
And
it
it's got a
is
fence
in
around it.
rough shape, and so that's, the fire department has asked us to
Right.
put it on our priority list to demolish. So,
Okay, so I'm in the right location, okay.
Yeah.
Alderman Clemmons.
Yeah, so the parking spaces, is that enough? Most people have 2 cars.
So it's 240 units with 300 parking spaces, yes. So they are meeting our minimum recommendation of more than one, I think it's 1.4 is the ratio. So we recommend 1.5, but we do not have a minimum parking requirement in that area. However, yeah, so the 30 parking spaces we hope that will be public, or that are going to be public, will be shared. So we anticipate a lot of turnover throughout the day and evening. We will never have enough parking ever. I just, and so that is something that we constantly have to worry about down the line. I know we held the Milliard Charrette this weekend, and one of the suggestions was potentially putting up a public parking garage in the area as well. So that might mitigate any future issues that this would bring up.
Alderman Clemmons.
The shared parking spaces, they're going to be free?
Yeah, we have not determined that yet.
Okay, well, yeah, this is where I have a concern, and I think so the parking, I think, is an issue, and it's particularly an issue if the 30 shared spaces aren't going to be free, because then that puts down to, if there's 240 units, 300 spaces, so that's 270, that gives them 270, which is an extra 30 spaces for their tenants. And if we charge parking on that other 30 spaces, then that really puts the tenants in a bind, because where are they going to park without having to pay?
Yeah, I mean, how could we charge? I mean, in reality.
Yeah,
Because
I
they can
don't
park
think-
there for, we're not charging them to park on their own land.
Yeah,
Right.
and they will likely be paying for parking to LMG, to their rental units in addition. So they will be paying for parking no matter what, but we have not figured out a mechanism to charge there yet and do enforcement. So as of this moment, we do not plan on charging, but we have not determined that completely.
Alderman Clemmons.
Is there an opportunity here to increase the number of spaces in this, on this property to more than 300?
It is very tight at the moment. The envelope of the building is near the parcel lines.
You know, there are a lot of, what's the 1 and 2 bedroom mix on this?
It's mostly one bedrooms, but there will be, I think 30% will be 2 bedrooms.
I mean, these people who developed
The high street flats.
high street flats are going to do Bagshaw across the way. They've got some other property there. I mean, they know the business. I mean, they're not going to want to be in a situation where they can't, you know, their tenants can't park. So I think they have a good understanding of the market and how many cars there are likely to be, and have themselves judged that the 300 are enough. Yes, Alderwoman Clee.
If Alderman Clemmons is.
Yeah, I am.
Just to add to the parking, one of my frustrations about being on the planning board is that our downtown, our zoning is 0 parking requirements for anything downtown. And this is part of the downtown area. We have 0. Every place else in the city is 1.5. That is the requirement through the city. But zoning in the downtown area is 0. We can't really force them to have any parking. The fact that they have this much parking is grateful for it. And trust me, I sit on the planning board time after time after time saying, you know, we just had the one that's over by the Hudson line there, Ward 7, and I sat there and actually voted against it because I felt that this parking was going to hurt the neighborhood and the complexity of the neighborhood and so on. There was only one other person that voted that way, but they met the letter of the law as far as our parking requirement is, our zoning is 0 in the downtown area, because they figure people who live in the downtown area are going to work within that area. They're going to take, you know, mass transit and so on. I disagree with it because I think we live in a different society when that thinking was of that nature, but that is the way things are, and it's frustrating, so.
Alderman Clemmons.
Well, no, I have to disagree a little bit with that, because originally that 0 parking requirement was done to, or parking space requirement was done to promote development downtown, because we weren't getting anything and we had a glut of spaces. We no longer face that, and we face the opposite problem now. And I know we're trying to change that through our, you know, through the new planning ordinances that are coming up. So that, you know, that's changing, but I'm just concerned that, that we're missing the mark here.
The building is not entirely designed yet, and so we can certainly go back to them and say that this was the feedback and see if we can squeeze some more in there. So I'm happy to do that. Yeah.
Never hurts.
Yeah.
More parking is always better.
Yeah.
Alderman Thibodeau.
I had a similar concern, and I'm assuming, as the mayor pointed out, this is their business, and I don't know exactly what their business model is, and if they're going to, you know, are spaces going to be included, or as you mentioned, that they probably have to pay for them or whatever. I guess that becomes part of the process of whether or not I want to reside at this building.
Correct. Yeah.
I don't get a spot, then I'm going to choose not to live there. I guess the only people that it hurts are going to be the people that choose to live in this building under those management rules. But I originally had the same concern, but I guess that comes down to a business model on their end. If they see that as effect, I know, I agree that most people have more than one car. Even the folks that are probably going to qualify for the lower income are more than likely going to have 2 cars. So, I mean, it's going to be a struggle, but that's on their business model. So.
You know, the High Street Flats has 0 parking, and they lease from us in a parking garage where we also lease spaces to the public, and let the public park in there. But there's a lot of, no one has a reserved space. There's a lot of turnover.
Yeah.
Sometimes there aren't people there at night, there aren't people there in the daytime. And despite all those multiple uses in the High Street parking garage, we haven't had any problems at all, have we? So the entire 150 units, plus the public, plus the lease spaces, everything's in there with no one having the right to a particular space. No problems. So this is 300 spaces for 240. That's, I think what do they lease, 150?
155, yep.
155 for
56,
150
yeah.
units, and no problem. Alderman Clemmons.
Yeah, and to Alderman Thibodeau's point, the folks that are paying the 80% market rate, I would agree with you. Yep, you know what? You don't want to live there, then whatever. But the affordable ones is where my concern comes in. Because if you are a family with 2 cars, you need to get to work, you need to have a nice place to live, right? And we're trying to get you to move into here. But if you're limited to 1 car, then now that option's gone. And it defeats the purpose of the affordable units. So I don't know what we can do to guarantee at least 2 spaces for those folks. And if they don't need it, then it can go back out to the other tenants. But like, that's where my concern is on that 20%. Because again, a lot of those folks don't have a choice of where they live, right? It's like they apply for assistance and they get assigned, here's your building, this is what we can do. And that's where my concern about the parking comes in.
Alderwoman Clee.
Thank you. And building off of that, to the best of my knowledge, affordable is only for so if they charge $1,000 a month for a parking space, these people are just out of luck. They're not going to be able to afford the parking space. And I have to agree with my colleagues, that is an issue. I don't know how we can build that in to this affordable rate, that we make sure that those apartments have affordable or zero cost for their parking spaces. I don't say it has to be assigned, but that they have, because you could negate affordable if you start charging them for parking.
I think you're certainly right, and we can have that conversation
We don't know whether or
with
not they're
them.
going to charge for parking. We're just guessing.
Right.
So I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. I just want to,
Yeah.
in speaking out and talking, I don't want to negate the word affordable,
Yeah.
which is just a very broad word. But, we're looking at 60% AMI. I don't want to say, okay, and now they're going to add this surcharge of a parking space. Not that they are, but just in case. I'd like that conversation to be had. I
Yeah.
think my colleagues are bringing up very good points. I know exactly what you're saying. If it were the high street flats, those are all, kind of higher income level and
Yeah.
smaller units and different kind of thing like that. That's a whole different story.
I can certainly have that conversation with the developer and let them know what the feeling is. I would say that
can't
most developers are going to want to charge for the things that they build. And so I don't know how we can get around that, but we can certainly have the conversation with them and let them know that that's what we're, I mean, we're looking at $60,000 to $80,000 per space to build garage space, and that's low right now. We're anticipating it to go higher, so I don't know how they would get their money back if, they just wouldn't build the parking if it was free parking.
Are they building this?
Yeah, they are.
There is also the famous lot that you've all looked at many times, the 165 or 68 spaces or whatever that the city owns close by. I mean, it's a little bit of a walk, but once, as Bagshaw gets developed and the area becomes principally residential, we could lease them space. We could lease this place spaces, but they don't have enough. But Alderman Clemmons.
Would it be How much of a time crunch are we on this? Could we table this and then have you have that conversation so that we can get some answers?
I would not encourage tabling it just because of the demo issue. They are not going to schedule demo without a signed MDA. So that is my one concern on timing. But we meet with them every other week, so I can certainly have the conversation with them even tomorrow. But I would not table it if I had the choice.
I have one other question.
Alderwoman Timmons.
Thank you. That 300 parking, 300 parking spaces, does that include handicap parking as well?
It does, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think, I don't remember how many, but it's listed
Okay.
based on ADA requirements.
Thank you.
Alderman Gouveia.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm ready to pass this. I think it was a good conversation on the parking, but at the end of the day, I don't want to hold this up. We have a developer who's eager, who wants to do something. I'm ready to move on it.
You know, the demolition is a little bit sensitive because that's why rather than us appropriating the money, which was the original plan, we thought this is a quicker way to do it because there was a fire which knocked out, but there was a fire and there's no operational fire suppression. The fire department is not very comfortable with that. There's a special arrangement over there where we're doing daily walk-bys or walk-throughs and all this kind of stuff. So they're looking to us to try to get this done as quickly as possible because they've kind of given us not a pass, but they've given us, some leeway, let's put it that way, with respect to the fire suppression. Alderman Clemens.
Thank you. Yeah, and I appreciate that, but I am of the opinion that we shouldn't rush through this. And, I'm not going to support it unless I have an answer to that question about the parking. And I just think, in my opinion, right, we should get the answers to our questions before we move into a development agreement with somebody. And I don't feel comfortable moving forward with it until I get the answers on the parking. So I'm going to vote no.
Alderman Thibodeau.
If this passes tonight, it still goes before the full board, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Which would be more than likely next Tuesday?
Yes.
So if we voted yes today, can we guarantee that we will get answers to these concerns and these questions by next Tuesday? That way the train can keep moving. The ratio of the chamber is different, I get that. I'm just.
Can you get an answer by Tuesday?
Yeah, I'll call them tomorrow.
I mean, I don't know if they're available. Could they come in on Tuesday?
We might be able to have them Zoom. They're not in state, so
Yeah.
but I can see if they're available. Yeah.
Because
Alderman Clemens.
so I'm going to put this out. I mean, they are a reputable company, right? So if they I don't need it written into the agreement, but because if they say this is something we're going to commit to, I can take that verbally from them because we've done, the city has done business with them in the past and they're reputable and they're not going to put their reputation on the line, right? Because I'm sure they do want to do business with the city in other areas. So
They're one of the two finalists on the.
correct. So I'm willing to go along with Alderman Thibodeau's suggestion, especially since we can get an answer with that and move this along. But depending on that answer is how I'm going to vote on Tuesday. So So you're looking for, just so I clarified, you're looking for at least 20% of the parking spaces to be dedicated free for the affordable units? Correct.
Okay.
And preferably, to have them have the availability that if somebody's in there and they have two cars, to be able to accommodate that.
Okay.
Alderwoman Clemens. not Alderwoman Clee, sorry.
We look alike, I get it. My hair's up.
I'm not as good looking.
I was going to say the same thing, but the one thing I've learned through playing and everything and putting everything out on the table is that not all the apartments look alike. Those that are at this lower for AMI don't have all of the grand marble and so on that the other units have. So putting everything out on the table, I wouldn't have a problem if, as we're talking about those 30 parking spaces, that those become designated for the, for these.
As opposed to the public.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Option. Okay. I'll put it out there.
So you said that they have to build these and so on, and there's a cost to those particular ones. I wouldn't have a problem, and they're going to be enclosed and so on, so I wouldn't have a problem. I mean, we're going to be honest here. Things are different for the affordables than they are. So as long as there is a parking available at no cost.
Yeah.
That's my main thing, that is keeping with the affordable.
Okay.
You know, we're the ones that are looking for the public spaces, right?
Yes.
I mean, they're not probably eager to do that.
No, that was a negotiation that
Right.
we
So it's
got.
for the city.
Yeah, for
Okay.
the city.
Okay, then I have to take that back.
Although I don't know who in the public's going to be wanting to park there exactly, but.
Well, they'll have commercial space in the building.
yeah, for
So
that.
that we anticipate that that would be a public-facing area. That's why we asked for those parking spaces and to just accommodate additional, like, events and things like that, that we have extra space.
May I ask a follow-up?
Yeah.
How many of these units fall within the affordable?
Yeah, so we have 200,
48?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, it's right up there, right?
20%, sorry. I
20%,
should have put
okay,
the
yeah,
numbers.
Yeah.
But,
Okay, 48. So that would
yes.
even accommodate. I'm not necessarily keen on 2 per, because every place else in the city is 1.5.
Yep.
So I can live without
So
the.
we're
yeah.
just shy of 1.5?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Alderman Clemmons.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I can live with one if it's free.
yeah.
But I would prefer two. I would prefer them to work with those affordable units to figure out a way to accommodate them as opposed to saying, well, I guess this is not an option and move down the list to the next person. So, again, they're a reputable company. If they say that that's what they're gonna do, then, you know, I'll take them at their word, so.
Okay. I will certainly have the conversation. I don't anticipate great news, but it's worth asking. They might be willing to work with us on that.
Especially if we were to adjust the purchase price.
That is another option, as we could basically buy down.
Well, let's find out what their plan is
Okay.
and see what we can do for Tuesday.
Okay.
All right?
If I may, just one comment?
Yeah.
I truly have no issue with just one. I think it's a big ask.
So the issue is, are they going to charge the affordable units for the
Yeah,
parking?
that's all I want to know, is if they're going to charge
Correct.
affordable, and
It's
I
not the
would not
number of
anticipate more
units,
than
not the
one.
number of spaces, it's
No.
whether they're going to charge.
Right, exactly.
Okay, I can find that out.
All right. Anyone else? So with that understanding, there is a motion to recommend final passage on the floor. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. All right. New business ordinances, we have none. Tabled in committee, nothing. Record of expenditures, Alderman Govea.
I move that the Finance Committee has complied with the city charter and ordinances pertaining to the record of expenditures for the period of May 16, 2025 to May 29, 2025.
All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. General discussion, any general discussion by the alderman or by anyone here? All being alderman? Yes, Alderman Clemmons.
Yeah, I just want to thank Director Hannum for offering to reach out to the company and working with the committee. Appreciate that.
All right. Next, we have public comment. Any member of the public want to speak to the committee? There's no one here, so I guess we'll move by that quickly. Remarks by alderman. Any remarks by any alderman? And with none, we will go to non-public session with a couple of employees who are here. Who's got that motion? Alderman Govea.
I move that the Finance Committee go into non-public session by roll call pursuant to RSA 91A32E, consideration or negotiation of pending claims or litigation which has been threatened in writing or filed by pending claims of litigation. Oops, skipped over a line here. That was the big motion. Against the body or any public subdivision therefore, or by or against any member therefore because of his or her membership in such public body, until the claim or litigation has been fully adjudicated or otherwise settled. Any application or filed the tax abatement pursuant to law with anybody or board shall not be constituted a threatened or filed litigation against, wow, I'm messing this one up here, sorry. Public body for the proposed of this subparagraph, and RSA 91A32L, consideration of legal advice provided by legal counsel, either in writing or orally, to one or more members of the public body, even when legal counsel is not present.
All right, so we need a roll call on this, right?
I need a second on it as well.
Second. Alderman Clemmons seconds. Could you please call the roll?
Yes. Alderwoman Timmons.
Yes.
Alderman Thibodeau.
Here.
Alderman Govea is a yes. Alderman Clemmons.
Yes.
Alderman Clee.
Yes.
Mayor Dodges.
Yes. All right. So